I don't know if you've been coming across a lot of the headlines lately. Seems like many of the AI leaders are changing their tune when it comes to doomsday or job apocalypse predictions.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I had this article that I was looking at with Sam Altman. Funny you should bring that up. That uh, Lots of backpedaling going on. Seems like
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
industry over the past few weeks, and I guess that's what you're talking about, right?
yeah. I have my theories about why, but curious to hear what your thoughts are.
So, well, the reason is they're all liars. I mean, that's the big thing, right? Because they're motivated by raising a lot of money, and the only way that these things will ever pay off to the investors is if the AI is going to do a better job and cheaper than people, and that you'll be able to replace people. And when I say replace, I mean, it's like people think of replace as like a static on a chessboard, right? Like the knight takes the rook, like this takes the AI takes your job, right?
Right.
And but it's not really how the world works, right? Like we live more like in a river, and things kind of get moved to the side, and so even though the knight might take your rook for now, like it's more of a transition to it's more like getting bumped off to the side by somebody in an inner tube, but once you're floating down the river in your inner tube, you find the new spot in the river, right? And so like yeah, that's kind of what happened with the last several disruptions, but this one, right, it's the same thing. Is there Well, first of all, the AI is not as good as they were saying it was. And in fact, Sam Altman had another quote about that where he says, I wish we had, instead of saying that it's better than every human on earth at its job, we said it was pretty good at doing most tasks under
Yeah,
supervision in 44 different areas, right?
yeah, yeah,
Like he
yeah,
said
yeah.
something like
Certain
that.
tasks.
I was like, that's a very different statement, right?
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting evolution.
Yeah,
I think reality is setting in, right? I think when this
yeah.
thing came out as a new and emerging technology, which was and is, continues to be, I think, quite special and amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows
Right.
where it's going to go. And I do, in hindsight, strongly believe there was a lot of sort of exaggeration in order to garner headlines. I mean, this is nothing new, right? Garner headlines,
Yeah.
increase evaluation, increase valuation of their companies. Get investors interested, um, and then as these companies prepare to go public, and I think some of the I don't know what your thoughts are. I think some of the kind of negative reaction from graduating classes to speeches
Yeah.
around that mention AI,
Yeah.
is this you know so now the headlines are a tempered approach to sort of assuage and um you know speak put a message into the market that is more amenable to a growing population of people are using it.
Yeah.
But the question still comes back to what is the reality? What's going to happen?
Yeah.
You say the models aren't as good. I see. I mean, I think a major player in this right now is what I've been saying lately is the costs of AI like all technologies are going to continue to drop dramatically according to Moore's law or what have you, right? As more capacity comes online with data centers, the
Right.
cost per token is going to drop. However, prices are increasing.
Yeah.
Prices are increasing. The cost to the consumer, what you pay, is increasing because investors have subsidized this. So
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot going on in the space in terms of you know accurately predicting what's going to happen. I think these are all just to a certain extent mind games.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, and Andrew McDonald, and I just kind of highlighted this on the article, is he was saying that in a recent podcast interview that actually when they got the bill for the AI,
Right.
and they started doing the math, they figured out that actually having the AI do the work was more expensive than having people. And so that was kind of a big shocker, right? Like I would have thought that if anything, even if it's not quite as good, it would have at least been cheaper. And what they're saying is, nah, it's not really cheaper. And I think part of that is the way people are using it. But of course, that's always the blame, right? It's like, well, you're using it wrong. But I also think that that it's more of a, well, we really didn't know how much it was costing, and we kind of dove headlong into this. And so it turns out, we just started doing the math, and they they burned through their 2026 Claude budget in 4 months.
Right.
And you can, and maybe that's employees doing their side projects. Like, I don't know, right? Like, I'm not sure how you even monitor that, but there definitely is something going on, right? And there's kind of this reckoning, and I think, like with anything, we're starting to sort of see through the fog. And the fog, once you start to see through the fog on AI, you see that, hey, if you really want to create a competitive advantage of it, like any resource, you have to use it, intelligently, but also like with your mind, use your mind, use your brain. Like this is a resource. You can't just like waste it. It's not free, right? And I think that's kind of how we said it. Now, when the internet came along, it was sort of kind of free after a while, right? Because basically, like, you have a subscription and you can get as much internet as you want. And I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but in the early days of the internet, we actually had to pay for data that we were using, and not just the connection. And now it's just kind of like the connection. So the marginal cost of the internet is very low, and unfortunately, the marginal cost of AI is very high. So it's a very different beast, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a really, and there's probably a nice little interesting case study to do on this, because I think every technology sort of goes through that phase. So yes, I am old enough to remember that they charge us for data. In fact, I'm old enough to remember that what we now call, I don't even know if we have copy machines or what have you.
Photocopiers.
Xerox had the first one, and
I showed one of those, by the way, to one of my grandchildren. I showed a copy machine, and they're like, what do you need that for?
Right. Well,
they thought it was magic. They were like, because they're all about paper and scissors and crafts, right?
But they did pay. It was pay per click. Like you went in, and there was a counter on there, and you leased the machine from IBM or Xerox, what have you, and you paid per click. Same with phone calls, right? When we even smartphones, right? It was to make you maybe had unlimited local or texting. Everything was per text or per data, and then it got to a point where you could do unlimited plans. And we are so early in AI, and it does seem to be, once again, a different thing. The agents that run autonomously, constantly, working 24/7. It's hard to see a world where an unlimited plan, so to speak, can accommodate for all of that.
Yeah. And we have a lot of like still weirdness going on, right? Like you and I are both big advocates of the use of agentic AI and building a competitive advantage with that. But we're also seeing a lot of downsides when you let the agents kind of run free, and unexpected stuff. Like, one of the things, and and maybe all the researchers expected this. I'm not an AI researcher, but I really try to keep up with all the the news, and I do read the research. I don't create it. And the fact that they're having trouble sort of harnessing their memory, because at first they seem like magic, right? They understand you like it's a machine that seems to understand my intentions. It keeps a memory, and it's able to kind of figure out what's going on, in my world, and have a plan and work for a longer period of time, and all that. But then, like, wait a second, I already told you this. I told you I don't, I want you to run this kind of thing by me, and now you're doing it on your own. I told you to to do research on this, and you didn't do the research. I told you to format this in a specific way. And you and I I've even built the skill around it and everything.
Right.
And yet I'm not getting what I want. And
I literally had an instance. So it is completely what as you said, I'm a total advocate. I've been a fan of Agentic AI. I mean, all that stuff's coming, and it's fascinating.
Yeah.
And responsible and efficient usage, from a enterprise standpoint. You're at a company, you've got to, you're hitting limits. You've got to apply the technology, not just willy nilly, right? You've got to have some sort of strategy, which leads me to, I mean, training and education is more important than ever in terms of, because this is not going to go away. This is something you can say, we're going to abandon it, right? It's extremely powerful technology. But Paul, yesterday, literally, I was working on what was it? I was transferring a Replit project from one account to another.
Right.
And it says, and I'll just use Rozoyo. It's like, I looked at your screenshot and I caught one thing. The www.rozoyo.com, you have www.razoyo.com.
Yeah.
Instead, you should have www.razoyo.com. I was like, and I'm looking at it, and I had my colleague come in.
What's the difference?
I'm like, is it? Am I not seeing something here? Like, is that not the same? Because maybe the O, the Y, and then I pasted it back, and I said, I'm not seeing the difference. And it's like, oh yeah, you're right. It is identical. My bad. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like that basic, the basic interpretation. So it just goes to show that if you are just, and getting worse, I mean, I know you're deep into the paperclip and the you're deep into agentic teams. That's a typo. Getting 3, 5, 6 work, layers in on a workflow where an agent is acting independently based on what other agents are telling it. Who knows what's going to go on?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like, that there's just a lot to unpack there. I mean, one of the things that I'm finding, for, kind of going back to where we started, which is the market sentiment on this.
Yeah.
Is, I think, let's take 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, the people that I was talking to, it was super high on their radar. It was big in terms of their priorities. I got to get a handle on AI. I got to figure, because I'm losing ground and things are moving fast and I'm getting behind, right? Like that was a very, very common sentiment out there. And I almost feel like with these news articles that have come out that we've been talking about, that people are kind of starting to reconsider. And I'm like, nothing has really changed, right? Like if you've been in the midst of this, nothing has changed. This has been going on all along. Right. So why and it's because they're not in it day to day, right?
Yeah, I have a theory.
Okay.
Because I've been through this before with kind of innovation cycles where, so there's a lot of energy in the adoption of a new technology where you've got you've got innovators and early adopters, before you kind of hit that bell curve. And once again, this thing went off so fast that, I mean, what is an innovator or an early adopter? It's not who is using the technology, it's how they're using it. And then you've got these innovators who are in there going, man, I like you and me, like I could not get enough of it. I was doing this, 14, 16 hours a day, just trying different things and And then the hammer came down. Suddenly I started hitting usage limits because others like us were
Right.
doing
The
it.
cost factor creeps in.
So what happens when costs rise? Now you've got the attention of the CFO and procurement,
Yeah.
and it is an easy excuse at the moment to say, yeah, let's just kind of mothball the thing for now. From that perspective, because it is very, I think at this point there are no rules
Yeah.
of governance. The model providers themselves, the frontier model providers themselves, Anthropic, OpenAI, Google,
Mm-hmm.
that they're not. I mean, it's confusing. It's confusing as all get out in terms of what a token is and what it costs per model. It's there and it's complex. I heard a podcast the other day that it's largely built for developers. You probably, I mean, this is a great example. You probably are more in tune with the level of complexity, and you understand, well, if I'm using Haiku versus Sonnet versus I guess Fable,
Opus, whatever. Yeah.
yeah, you're like, okay, you're intuitively understanding that there's more to those choices.
Right.
Well, most people never touch the model selector, right? They're just like,
Yeah.
whatever the default is. And so I just think there's a lot of it's opaque in
Right.
terms of how these models are working. And it's a very easy decision or mandate for the procurement and CFO's office to say, slow down, and rightly so, right? We can't just have costs going out of control. But
Yeah.
if that leads to a slowdown in, again, like the effort needs to shift to double down on training,
Yeah.
double down on education,
Right.
make sure that your folks are hearing, the latest about what's going on, right? Fable is a good example. Now I know the government shut it down,
Yeah.
but dude, like if you're an average user at a company and you're like, I'm going to turn on Fable, suddenly, you just like burn through your tokens for really no reason. It's like taking it's taking a gun to a sword fight or whatever, a knife fight.
Right. Well, did you like a bazooka to a sword?
Yeah.
Did you hear about this maximize mode that
I don't think so.
Yeah, so Claude Code came out with this new mode. So if you use Claude Code, you've got kind of like these different modes that you can use it in, and there was sort of like the max code mode, and that was previously the highest one, right?
Right. Okay.
Then there came out this and I don't remember the name of it, but this mode that was like off the scale, and you had to be using the highest model to get it. And basically what it would do is launch like 100 agents checking each other's work.
Yeah.
And at first you think, well, that's a good idea, maybe, right? Like maybe I'll move faster with that.
Yeah.
And a number of different studies were done about this. And when the bill came due, everybody, it was like, using a beer bong to drink Grey Goose, right? It was really just like a crazy.
Oh, that's a visual.
I don't even drink, so.
Yeah, well,
but I know what we're saying.
That's not the way to start.
Yeah. So the crazy thing is that it was exactly what I would have predicted.
Yeah.
Right. You have a bunch of agents, because even the use of agents, you have to have you have to tune your agents, and you have to make sure that they're still tuned, because they keep forgetting stuff.
Yeah.
But also just like having a bunch of agents with a different different points of view, doing a bunch of stuff in a parallel fashion. Like, that's a great way to just burn through your token.
That's right.
Usage.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. The smart, I mean, the effective use of it.
Yeah.
And again, I'll call it responsible or efficient. No, not efficient, right?
Right.
It is now becoming. It comes at a cost.
Yeah.
and I think that's what we're reckoning with.
Yeah.
And so it's going to, I don't know, I think it's exciting in a way because, now things have, they're flipping again in a sense. And I think it's probably healthy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you give everybody a motorcycle, and everybody some people get on it and they're just stuck in first gear, but they're revving that thing like crazy, going, why can't I go faster? And then you've got some people who are up in fifth gear, with like basically mainlining gasoline into the thing, so it has unlimited distance.
Yeah.
And I think we're coming to a point where it's like, no, there's a right mechanism, or a right architecture, a right configuration
Mm-hmm.
to balance all of these things. Multiple agents doing certain things in a certain way that check each other, so that the results are good, but not at the cost of burning, burning, I don't know what the analogy would be, burning, yeah, putting Grey Goose in a beer bong. That's just kind of,
Yeah. Yeah.
that says it all.
Like you'll get hammered really quick, I guess, and but yeah, like, is that really what you wanted, So I don't know. Like I think that, actually I think that was called Ultra Code, by
Okay.
Claude,
Yeah.
Claude
I
Code.
remember seeing
Yeah,
Ultra.
yeah.
Yeah.
The name
Yeah.
was escaping me, but
Yeah.
I just feel like the not things haven't really cleared up that much more in terms of
Yeah.
like what the future is going to bring for AI, etc. But I think the present maybe is clearer. Like the near future is getting clearer with
Hmm.
and people are maybe starting to generate a certain amount of individual, I don't say like discretion, but you get a hunch about things and how they're going to go. You get that feeling, right? Like
Hmm.
that human intelligence that your body and mind are telling you something is not right, or that this is, or that is dangerous. And people are starting to get that sense, right? That we
Hmm.
have that, can't be explained by an LLM, or
Yeah.
any sort of
Yeah.
AI model, because I don't know if that's like how humans just deal with complexity, but we do get that sense, and it is smart. It's like walking
Yeah.
into a bad neighborhood. Like all of a sudden you're realizing I might be, your sense of danger is heightened.
Sure.
And we get a sense when, oh, like I'm kind of walking into a bad neighborhood, the bad AI neighborhood
Yeah.
now, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Not that again, like, well, let me just ask you, what do you think of the whole Fable thing? Like, why, the government shut that down? First of all, it was released only to
Right.
Apple and Google and like these and probably the NSA or whatever, to to deal with 0-day vulnerabilities, right? And to clean their stuff up. um but then we kind of find out more about what it is, that the whole, and it feels more like kind of a PR stunt, after it sort of came out, that, oh, it's too dangerous for the general public, and then they release it to the general public, and the government says now it's too dangerous to the general public. It almost feels like a PR stunt that was pulled, because the reality is, if you had taken the same amount of money that they used for sort of testing and finding the AIs with Fable, uh, that could have already been done. They invested an enormous amount of money. And by the way, you know what a 0-day is, right? Like the 0-day is an exploit that is previously undiscovered for software. So it's a way to hack into something that nobody knows that the software is vulnerable in that way, or they don't know yet, or only the NSA knows, or the
Right.
Chinese or whatever, right? So it's an unpublished fault within the
Vulnerability.
system,
Yeah.
and
Right.
a vulnerability within the software. And I saw an analysis. One of the most famous ones was the FFmpeg vulnerability that was discovered, which was like, I don't know, 30 years old or 20 years old or some ridiculous amount of time. It was a pretty minor issue. And if
Right.
people don't know what FFmpeg is that if you're watching this video, you're using FFmpeg. It's used in Netflix and YouTube, like it's any streaming sort of software of any kind on all devices basically uses FFmpeg, and it's maintained by a group of really surly developers who like to throw shade on just about everybody else. But they found one vulnerability in that code base. But I think they looked at it and they said it cost them like $32 million or some ridiculous amount of money to find that. And I'm thinking, if I had that kind of money, yeah, maybe Fable's great. Maybe it's better at finding vulnerabilities or something like that. But I bet I could have found that vulnerability with
I,
$32 million to spend anyway.
yeah, I think that, yeah, that's a good point. I think that, so there was a lot there.
Sorry, yeah, I just
Um,
kept going.
I do absolutely. I think it's absolutely true that there is a, look, I started my career in public relations, right? And
Yeah.
I did not last long. So
Yeah, you're too
for,
honest.
well, I think it has a lot to do with, I mean, manipulation of the media
Yeah,
is an art and science, and there is no way that billions of dollars are going in, trillions of dollars are going into these industries without a very concerted effort around how to
yeah,
communicate
uh,
to,
yeah,
using mass media.
yeah.
And there's powerful is that my connection, or are we okay? Yeah.
No, we're okay. We're good.
Okay. And this is a powerful technology that, DeepMind and folks like Demis Hassabis and all that are really, doing innovative and world changing things. Those two are two totally, I think, totally different things.
Yeah.
I don't think that they are intertwined as much as I would like to
To
believe.
to a certain now, the deep mind thing, and maybe I'm getting that mixed up with deep think. Um, but is the deep mind thing like the protein folding thing that was done at Google?
So yeah, I mean, DeepMind is the research
Right.
entity that drives Gemini, at Google. So Google
Yeah.
acquired DeepMind. I do think that, yeah. So DeepMind, the company or the unit, whatever it was,
Hmm.
responsible for the protein folding thing that won
Which is
Demis
pretty old, right? Like that
a few
was
years.
10 years
Yeah.
ago, right? That
Oh,
they
is it
did the
that many? I
protein
don't know.
folding
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure it was the like 2016 or 2017 or something like
Yeah.
that. Where and just for the audience, like the background on this was one of the issues with developing, I guess, vaccines or medicines, etc., was that they have to be able to uh, predict how proteins are going to fold themselves in different circumstances. And, the great example of this is the spike protein on the coronavirus. We've all heard about that, probably ad nauseum. And, it folds in a specific way to attach to certain receptors, but different proteins fold in different ways, and it's very, it takes an enormous amount of human effort to figure out how that folding is going to take place, right? So let me add, and DeepMind are basically, solved this problem and so they were able to fold, like, I don't remember, all the proteins in the universe, like, or whatever it is, like
Right.
400 million of them, right? With AI. Now let me ask you a question. Put your PR hat back on. If if that had resulted in one medical breakthrough, would it have been plastered all over the news? If that
I'm
protein
sure.
folding thing.
Well, it did. So I think that there was a significant breakthrough. So
Yeah.
just because I want to bring it back to the Fable
Because
thing,
I
but
haven't heard about it. Like
no,
I haven't heard about it.
no.
Sorry. Yeah.
So if you've seen AlphaGo, which is the whole, go,
Mm-hmm.
go think, I think it's called the Thinking Machine or something.
Yeah.
There's another follow up documentary, which is essentially kind of it's not part two, but it's basically the next round of that story where DeepMind, after conquering, the game of Go,
Right.
they conquered the protein folding thing. And the message I took away from that, again, and I'm not, medical scientist, was, this was an unsolvable problem. Like how to predict how proteins are going to fold
Yeah.
was unsolvable. And through the application of AI, not only did they solve one, they solved basically all of them, or
Yeah.
something along those lines. So bringing it back to Fable or mythos or what have you,
Right.
I think the extended story there is, yeah, they found this lame, unimportant FFmpeg vulnerability, but what else is out there? What
Sure.
other vulnerabilities? I mean, if we could miss something that simple over 20 years and money's not really a factor, just we
Right.
didn't have the technology, or again, the attention or the care to look there.
Right.
Well, now you've got this sort of universal scanner that can look at anything, no matter how unimportant, and find it. And I think the concern
But
was, well,
at enormous cost.
yeah, but I mean, but where, what I yeah, an enormous speculative cost, right? I mean, these are funded experiments at this point, right? I mean, going to Mars, right? I mean, like, is it's as expensive as it ever worth the while? Super interesting conversation to have around, is it even plausible?
Right.
Um,
But I think
so
that's more of an aspirational thing, though, right? Like you're trying to motivate a team of like really talented engineers, and you want to give
yeah,
them a problem,
yeah,
that
sure, moonshot kind of thing. Yeah,
yeah, that has never been solved before and is so so incredibly out there
yeah,
that that it causes people to just like rethink everything, right? And
yeah.
so I guess I see that as a little different thing. Like, do I think Elon Musk really thinks he's gonna die on Mars, which he says he wants to do? No, I don't. I think he's a little full of baloney. I don't think he's
Well,
being
there goes the thing.
candid.
Yeah, what do you say in order to motivate, large numbers of very smart people to
Yeah,
rally behind a goal? And what is
yeah,
I mean, if it is in fact, like, mathematically impossible based on what we know now,
yeah,
and you've still got hundreds of the world's smartest engineers working on how to get to Mars,
yeah.
you've accomplished something. And I think this is where AI opens up a very, I mean, I've thought about, you know this whole idea of the philosophy of AI, because what happens, so AI is kind of well, we don't think it's possible now, but we've got this new technology. What is it called? Recursive learning. Like, that's what
Yeah.
I'm most concerned about, is if this thing really does start to teach itself and learn itself, which it's showing indications that it can do. It can write code and write code. I mean, does it? I mean, with my limited knowledge, it feels like it is doing things and getting better at things. Maybe it's repeated behavior, what have you, but it is if that can happen, and many people believe that it is inevitable that these things will start to teach themselves, then we're in that phase of, well, we don't think it's possible to go to Mars, but guess what? You can freeze somebody. I don't know, like whatever
Yeah. So
it's the breaking, what is it? Was it the 4 minute mile, 5 minute mile?
yeah, the 4 minute mile. Once people knew they could do it, then
Right.
everybody did it, or
Yeah.
every great athlete. I've never done it, but
Yeah. Yeah.
well, let
Like
me just
hundreds of people now have done it.
let me just go
So,
back to this
okay.
recursive learning thing, right?
Okay.
Because
Okay.
I
Good.
think you and I have very different perspectives on this. And for first of all, it's sort of like, for me, it's the new horizon of hype. People make
Okay.
statements like, "Well, AI is writing its own code," right? But AI is not really code, right?
Right.
Like if you assume that model weights are code and
Yeah.
the prompts are code, I guess, right? But it's not making itself smarter by doing that. So There is some truth to it, but the truth is more like, no, AI researchers are using AI to write code to help them do their research. That's
Right.
very different than AI teaching itself.
Yeah.
And I go back to the type 1 versus type 2 thinking. The current models we have can be improved upon, but they are not capable of type 2 thinking, which means understanding the what your act the results of your actions, right? So you can't. So the current AI can't really make a plan. It can't really, it seems like it's planning, like people use to plan their trips or whatever, but it's not really planning, right?
Yeah.
It's just predicting kind of what's gonna come next. And once you start to break those plans apart, it gets scary. And and the agents are told to come up with a plan, but they're only doing it based on the information that's available to them. So this recursive model, like if those were so good, then tell me why we've gone back to the 80s and we're training those models by having AI kind of sit next to a very intelligent person, a high level PhD
The
or
mimic.
expert in the
Yeah.
field.
Right.
And to me that is a folly. That is not going to work, because if it could work, you cannot take the human intellect and distill it into code or weights or models.
Well, this is why I like
Right.
the philosophical angle of AI, right? Because you do very quickly, get to a point where you're just going, this is all conjecture,
Yeah.
right? To a
Yeah.
and very well might be conjecture forever, because and so if you look at that today, I do think that yeah, there is a little, I would say that if I had characterized my current state, there is a little bit of disillusionment, or again, sort of reality checking
Yeah.
of exactly what this technology can do. Right. So there's the headlines and there's the hype meter. And I think that's continuing. And I think that there's this vocalization of messaging and perspective and perception, that's largely right now at the moment driven around valuations and getting people interested in, so SpaceX just went public, Anthropic and OpenAI have filed, that'll
Right.
happen
But you
probably
can't
this year.
dismiss everything because of that. Right. And that's
Of
what's
course not.
confusing, right? Is like you have all these motivations for pushing the envelope, and when I say pushing the envelope, I mean lying about like what it can do, what it's going to do, what it's capable of, in order to push the valuation of your stock and make Sam Altman a trillionaire, right?
Yeah.
Like there's all of those sorts of motivations out there. And so some people take the point of view that, oh, well, it's all BS. Like these guys are every time that AI doesn't meet their expectations, or people, walk back a prediction or a capability or whatever, then you have some people say, well, it's all BS, right? This is never going to happen. This is not going to affect me, and they dismiss it. And that's one kind of mistake, right? And then you have the others who are like constantly justifying, what the AI cabal out there, the billionaire AI cabal is out there saying that, yes, but you just didn't understand it, or we didn't understand it, or they were speaking, vaguely about this, or what they really meant was this. Like you see all that, it's sort of like, political supporters who, sort of justify all of the BS that came out of their party or candidate or what have you, right?
Yeah.
So it's a that both types of mistakes are mistakes.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. I think, I'm with you 100%. I think what I, the reason I focus on that is because, in terms of bringing it down to practical application for, again, let's just call it competitive business purposes or what have you, right? You're a founder, you're running a company, you're trying to figure out, there was all this stuff going on in the news, and now everybody seems to be backing it up. It's not news to anybody, or not. It's not, I'm not positing something that's not been said a million times. I just think it's very important at this point, if you are, that if you are so there are what I consider sort of foundational premise statements here. AI is a revolutionary technology that's unlike anything that we've ever had, and I think that it's still
That's
developing,
still
and
holding. Yeah.
we have no idea what's going to. And yes, and there is a different mechanism that is vocalizing messages through the mass media, social media, or whatever, in order to that is sometimes based in fact, but it's very hard to parse out what is true, what is a lie, what is just. I mean, this is the whole point, right? Am I lying, or do I just have a different perspective from you? Like, it's theory. Is AGI going
I
to come
think
or
they
not?
know they're lying. They know a lot more about AI than most people.
Yeah,
And I know they're lying with
yeah,
what I know about AI.
yeah.
So there's a lot of lying going on. Now, there are different perspectives, but there's also a lot of really uninformed perspectives.
Of
Um,
course.
and so there's a lot of, well, I don't even like to call them half truths. A half truth is a lie. Right?
Yeah. I
So
think,
I
yeah, I just, sorry, just to insist on getting my
okay,
my
sorry.
conclusion in here. I think that as a business operator,
Yeah.
what I would encourage, a business operator to do is do not give up on this
Right.
technology. Do
100%.
not, and if you had to choose one or the other, roll up your sleeves and muck your way through it and do the hard work to figure out what this is going. And yes, it's going to come at a cost. You're not going to be efficient. Your people are going to be, using it in the wrong way. So you've
Yeah.
got to do, training and education, and you've got to learn. I mean, these are new things. So this is you know, the ILO Institute, the Institute for Innovation in Large Organizations. One of their primary messages is, bias towards execution, less planning, more doing.
Mhm.
And I think at this point the stakes are so high that I wouldn't say, of course, don't ignore the news or what have you, but you know, Sam Altman backing this, or other leaders backing away from and backpedaling and all of that. It's a little bit like, so what? It doesn't,
See?
instead,
Yeah.
keep your garage door open, find the innovators in your organization, find the early adopters. Don't let them go hog wild, perhaps, right? I mean, because that comes at a cost that could be dangerous.
Yeah.
But be generous in your limits, and the container that you put folks in, because there is no playbook yet, or the playbooks are still being
Yeah.
established. That's
Yeah. And I get, I tend to go back to my book, which is understanding a little bit about how all this works.
yeah,
You don't
agreed.
have to be an AI research, how all this
Right,
works, what, researchers who are kind of on the front end are saying about it, not the CEOs, right? Ignore the CEOs, but just having a little bit of a framework for understanding it goes a long way. And
agreed.
and
Right,
that's
I'm with you. Yeah,
that's kind of my purpose, right? Is like helping people understand so they don't go overboard, they don't dismiss it, they
right.
find that middle path that's really going to prove to be valuable to them. And you and I both believe if you're in a company that almost any kind of business, there is an opportunity for you to create a competitive advantage with AI.
Agreed.
There's also a real danger that you will fall behind, but it's not going to happen overnight, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and you do need to get on top of it. Like that's why we have this podcast. Like we want people to get on top of it. We want them to be clear in their thinking about it, and we also agree that this is a very valuable technology and will continue to be valuable, and you can already start creating value with it, and that opportunity is going to increase in the future. I
I
you know
yeah,
Everybody talks about exponential improvement, but
yeah,
people don't realize that
yeah.
an exponent can be one. That means
Yes,
it's linear. It can
yeah,
be less than
yeah,
one. That means it's dying. And an exponent can be a million,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Which means it's going up at such a
I,
crazy rate that you can't control it. So
Yeah.
yes, it's gonna, there's gonna be exponential improvement in AI no matter which way it goes. That statement's
Right.
true.
Right. No, I think I agree with you. I agree with everything that you just said, and I do know that you shed a lot of light on what the details are behind these
Yeah,
things and the what really is happening, and again, kind of getting beyond the headlines,
yeah,
and I think that's a great challenge, which is the more you can understand. And again, you don't have to be a data scientist, you don't have to
yeah,
be an AI
yeah,
engineer, but understanding some of the basics about how these things are working, I think,
yeah,
really helps temper and give and leaves the headlines where they belong, right?
right,
Which
yeah.
is
And what
just
you're doing with helping organizations to wrap their heads around it in terms of implementing
yeah,
and dealing with AI within an organizational structure,
yeah,
it like that skill is something
yeah,
that every organization has to develop,
yeah.
right? And
Well, I never thought, I mean, again, operations, innovation, all that stuff's great, but more and more I'm drawn to sort of the governance and guardrails, right? Which is
yeah,
because I'm forced into that to say, don't constrain too much. I get it,
yeah,
but let's, I'm advocating for sort of, again, these loose, yes, let's put some guidelines in, let's put some guardrails. Yeah, let's set up I mean, just the administration of an AI, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini platform at the enterprise level is a daunting task.
yeah,
And it's easy to go, well, I'm just going to leave all the defaults on and kind of, let everybody figure out. It's like, no,
no,
let's
yeah,
put the right amount of space in here for people to figure out this thing that is just so new.
yeah.
So,
Well, hey, we've been going for almost an
all right,
hour. It's probably far too long. I doubt anybody is still listening at this point. I would say that it sounds like we've got a lot of topics that we should be talking about in the
yes,
near
I agree.
future, maybe in more bite-sized chunks. But yeah, like it feels like something's shifting. Going back to our original
Agreed.
premise, there's been some news. It feels like things are shifting in the marketplace, in the mindset of folks out there. I think both in good ways and bad ways, but most of all, I think it's good that there is this movement that people do take it serious, and people are kind of opening their eyes to it. So,
Yeah, agree.
yeah, that's what makes a great leader, right?
Thank you, Paul. It was
Hey,
good. Yeah, we'll work on some more bite-sized stuff next time.
all right. Hey, thanks, Christian.
All
Have a
right,
great one.
take care.
Bye.